Hello everybody, Timothy Bailey from Project Learn with a video for us today. And today we are talking about age or ages. We have some different vocabulary we use depending on how old you are, from the very beginning to the very end. Let's look first at some general vocabulary related to the idea of age. Here is a little girl, her name is Akari. We want to talk about her age, how old Akari is. Well, we can say Akari is 3 years old. In this expression, we have three separate pieces: the number, the unit of measure, so years, not months old or days old, and then old. Okay? So each of these is telling us how old she is and what kind of way we're measuring that. We could also say that Akari is a 3-year-old. This now is one item, right? Notice the hyphens tying these words together, right? A 3-year-old and no S. We could say girl here, right? Akari is a 3-year-old girl. So this would tell us about girl, right? This is very difficult for students, but basically if we're using it as one adjective, it's going to be like this. If we're talking about the specific number of years or weeks or days old, it's going to be the three separate words. Let's look at another picture. So here we have Victor. And Victor is an expression you might hear, pushing 60, right? Here, pushing means to be getting close to, right? Maybe he's 58, maybe he's 59. Victor is pushing 60, getting close to 60. We might also say Victor is in his 50s, right? 50s. And when we do this, we mean he is somewhere in age where the first number is a 5. So 51, 52, all the way to 59. If we write it with the numbers, we would write it like this. Another picture. These people, the students they look like, are peers. P-E-E-R-S. Peers. And peers are people who are of similar age. We often use this to refer to younger people or students, right? Peers, people about the same age, maybe a year younger or a year older. Let's go ahead and look at our vocabulary, starting in the beginning. Right? So here is Wilma, Lucy and I, our daughter that was born just a few weeks ago. This is one of the very first pictures of her. So I can use the word newborn, right? Newborn. A newborn is basically a baby, right? We have a few words that are basically a baby, right? But a newborn is probably in the first few weeks after being born, after birth, right? Wilma's now about 3 weeks old. I don't refer to her usually as a newborn anymore, right? In the first days, first couple weeks, we would refer to her as a newborn. Here she is again with her little shirt that says Wilma, her name, right? And now I'm going to say she's an infant, right? An infant. An infant is anywhere between 0 and 1 year. Right, an infant. Again, we might also just use the general term baby, right? For both of these pictures, she is a baby. Now, once she begins doing something very special, just like this boy here, she will not be a baby necessarily. Some people maybe refer to this child as a baby, but they may not. They may use the word toddler. And there's something very specific that this boy is able to do that Wilma cannot do right now. This boy is beginning to crawl or walk. He's standing up by himself, so he's probably walking, right? At least a little bit. A toddler is a child, a young child, who is crawling and walking. Okay. Here we have some cute kids, right? And they are no longer babies, right? We might refer to them as children or a child, right? Child, 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 child. children, right? More than one. Or we might use kid or kids. This is a very generic term, just like baby. A child can really be anyone between a toddler and what we'll see in a little bit, a tween, right? There's no real set age, except technically you're not a child once you become 18 in the United States, right? This girl's a little bit older, right? We would call her a preteen, right? Keep in mind, pre means before. So this girl is at the age where she's before a teen, right? Or a teenager. She's also a tween. This comes from, if you think of the word between. So she's between child and adult, a tween. So between a child and a teen, right? Around 10 to 13, right? Somewhere around then. This young man is a teenager, right? Or we might just call him a teen, as we saw in the previous slide. An older word you might hear sometimes is adolescent. He's also an adolescent. This is anyone who's basically 13 to 19. It comes from the ending of these words, 13, 19, and all the numbers in between. Okay. We have another group here, young adults, right? Young adults. And young adult is a little bit of a difficult age. If you look up what is a young adult, you'll see anything from teen to 20s or even 30s, right? My suggestion is it's not really this. Certainly not 30s, maybe early 20s, right? But a young adult is really very similar to a late teenager. So someone maybe who's like 16 to 20 maybe. And if you go into the bookstore, if you look at the young adult section, you sort of get that idea from the books that are there. It's not really people who are late 20s or 30s, right? So I would say late teens, 16, all the way maybe to 20, right? This man here is an adult. So adult is just like baby or just like child or kid. It's a generic term, right, for a large age group. And the adult can be anyone really from 18 to death, right, until they die. And the 18 here, keep in mind, is specific to the United States. If you come from a country where the adult age is different, then this word will mean different ages, right? So it could be lower, it could be 16, it could be older, possibly, right? Adult. And as we grow, right, this woman here, she is in midlife, right? Mid, of course, meaning middle. So she, about 40s or 50s, somewhere in there, right? You often hear this term related to a midlife crisis, when people realizing that they're getting older, stereotypically do things like buy sports cars or stuff like that, right? It sometimes is a negative idea, but midlife is not a negative idea. It just means you're in this age range, right? Growing older, then we become what is known now as seniors or senior citizens, right? Typically what we might think of as grandparents, right? Although depending, grandparents can be younger as well. Seniors or senior citizens are often thought of around 60 or older, between 60 to 70, okay? This is sometimes related to the age when you retire. So whatever the government of a country says might determine, right? Just like when you become an adult, when you become a senior might be determined by your culture or the government, right? I'm suggesting it's around this age, 60 or older. Now, as people live longer and longer, I see news stories all the time about people who are celebrating their 100th birthday or more, right? Perhaps like this gentleman here. We might refer to them as elderly, right? Elderly. Elderly sometimes has a negative idea, but it doesn't have to. It just means that you are older, right? And I'm suggesting here that nowadays it's even people who are 70 or older. For one reason, because people who are younger might still be working, they might still be very active in doing things, going shopping on their own, taking care of their needs, right? So elderly begins right quite late now, right? So we see a lot of people 70, 80, 90. Here are a couple links for you about the stages of life and the vocabulary that goes with those ages. Next time you see a picture or you read a story or something talking about a person and their age, think about what word you might use to describe their age. Thank you and have a great day.